Welcome to City Talk. I'm John McIntire. This is a program on City Channel Pittsburgh in which we try to engage city employees, answer the question, what do these nameless, faceless bureaucrats do all day, and indeed point out that they actually have names and faces. Say hi to one of them now, Emily Klein, who is an intern for the city of Pittsburgh. And you might not normally think of an intern as an employee per se, but they actually pay you, don't they, Emily?
They do, yeah.
Was that surprising when you first got the gig?
Yeah, I try to stay away from unpaid internships generally.
Wise policy.
Yeah, so I was excited when I saw that.
So where are you from originally?
I'm from Pittsburgh. I grew up in Squirrel Hill.
Squirrel Hill, a nice neighborhood, obviously. And you went to school?
Yeah, I went to Linden for elementary school, and then Alderdice and Kappa. Yeah.
And now Pitt.
Yeah, and now Pitt.
So how did you find out about the internship program for the city?
I was actually studying abroad in India last semester.
No kidding. How was that?
It was great. Yeah.
The mayor just met the Dalai Lama over there. Did you happen to see the Dalai Lama?
I didn't, but I was in the same area that the Dalai Lama's nephew goes to school.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So that's like 6 degrees
close,
of Kevin
right.
Bacon stuff. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so I was in India and I was just looking on the city website and I saw the internship and applied.
And what made it attractive to you?
My major is urban studies at Pitt, so I'm pretty interested in cities and how they function, but I had never done anything related to government in particular. And yeah, I think it had always been kind of a vague understanding of what city government does, and so the internship was interesting because it's more hands-on.
Do you have a better understanding of how it operates now, or at least portions of it?
Yeah, definitely. I think I didn't realize how many cool initiatives there are within the city, really kind of interesting progressive things that are happening.
You've done a lot of work on the Inclusive Innovation Summit, which brings together all sorts of diverse people and programs. How's that been? Yeah,
it's been great. It goes in, I didn't realize how much cool stuff was happening in the city in general until have been planning the summit, which will have over 50 organizations that will be a part of it, doing so many different really specific projects that are helping the city.
Teaching people about social injustice, teaching people how to get a job, and there's free coffee, so you can't beat that.
Yeah, lots of free stuff.
So urban studies, if you could do any job in the city of Pittsburgh, do you have your eye on one?
Cool.
Or even if you had to create one,
create a job.
Queen of urban studies or whatever it is that tickles your fancy.
Yeah, let's see. I feel like it would be cool to have some type of position that helps all the nonprofits work together more. I guess has been what I've been thinking lately is there's just a lot going on that there's not people communicating and working together as much as possible for all sorts of reasons. But yeah, I don't know if it's a dream job, but it would be pretty cool.
No kidding. So there's all these groups that are trying to help people and do good work, but they could all do a better job if they communicated with one another.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. I mean, I think they do communicate in a lot of ways, but there's always opportunities for more. And the summit is an example of a way to bring people together more.
Urban studies. So you might, and you graduate soon. So you might start out in the city of Pittsburgh, but you're going to look at other cities as well for possible job opportunities?
Yeah, I think I would like to look into leaving. I've just been here forever, so.
Some people leave and come back,
Yeah, you don't say. Yeah, so I do really like the idea of staying in Pittsburgh, and I feel really invested in Pittsburgh, and I know it really well. So it does seem like I do want to come back, or if the opportunity presented itself to stay, I would think about that.
Would you recommend the internship to anybody else going to school right now?
Yeah, definitely. I think the city has tons of internships, and I think this one is a little bit different because a lot of the internships are in urban planning, and this is with the Department of Innovation and Performance, so there's less of us. But yeah, it's been I've learned a lot, and I've gotten a lot of responsibility, and it's been great.
And what is innovation and performance? I don't mean to define the words, but do you know what the department does?
Yeah, it's kind of a new department as far as I am aware. And it's a lot of tech stuff, a lot of support to people within city government when they need help with their computers and things like that, 311. But then there's also really cool stuff like PGH Lab and the Inclusive Innovation Roadmap. So.
And this cable channel.
With
all these people who shoot video.
Yeah.
And people who do interviews.
Yeah. It's important.
That could be the least cool thing about it, but still, it's useful. So do you think it's a good government transparency project just to do this concept in general? Interview other employees, interview yourself?
Yeah, I do. I do think like getting this internship has made me realize how little I know and how little most people probably know about what happens in city government. So yeah, I think like as much as we can spread awareness is a good thing.
Emily Klein, thanks so much for being on City Talk.
Yeah, thanks for talking to me.
We'll be back with more of the program in a moment.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made her college years happen. Whatcha? Opening that education savings account when she was little. Spearheading a campus tour. And another, and another, and another, and another. Bam! Deciphering financial aid. She was like, what? And now she's like, you aced planning for college. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Welcome back to City Talk. If there's a giant pothole in front of your house, who are you going to call? You're going to call 311, the city's non-emergency hotline. And with us is Wayne Wyant, who is a 311 operator.
Thank you, John.
Although you were telling me before we started the videotape that some of the voicemail refers to you as an agent.
Yes, part of when you call in initially, they'll say, please wait for our next available agent.
Would you rather be an agent or an operator?
It doesn't matter to me
Six
as
of one,
long
half
as I can
dozen
get
the
a hold
other.
of people, yeah.
But you could be a secret agent. I mean, that would be cooler than being a secret operator.
It would be, but secret agents are notoriously hard to get a hold of on the phone.
Oh, you got me there. So tell us what you do.
Well, at 311 as one of the operators, it's my job to be there when the calls come in, and we handle pretty much most of the intake for the city in a non-emergency bent. As you know, there's a lot of departments in the city. Things change at a rapid pace, and it's important that citizens can get their concern addressed to the proper channels, which is not always easy to know, where to go. And so it was decided at some point to centralize that so that you have one number you have to call for a majority of the city's services, and then we take that information as clearly and concisely as possible and get it into the computer so that it can be sent to the proper departments that can deal with it in an efficient manner. It is dependent on the nature of the call, perfectly acceptable to do it anonymously. If you have like code violations, things like that, some people get very concerned about that. But we do all efforts to keep all of our calls anonymous.
What does an anonymous code violator call sound like?
My neighbor's grass is overgrown. Somebody's keeping junk cars in a empty lot next to their house.
And I don't want to be retaliated against, so.
Right, and nor should they. Nor should they.
No,
be.
sure,
That's,
right, I agree. Yeah.
Absolutely. These are things that.
Right, if it's a violation, it's a violation, regardless
Exactly.
of who reported it.
Right, and they have a right to be heard.
Yeah, so do you get a lot of calls, I'm sure, about potholes, I would assume?
Yeah, particularly in the winter and spring, absolutely.
Is that the number one, or is it more like after a snowfall, my street hasn't been plowed, or are they both in the same category, roughly?
I was gonna say, it depends on the year. It tends to be seasonal. Once you hit late spring and summer, it becomes overgrowth. It's whatever the city needs addressed most at the time.
So people
Right
are very,
now, potholes.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but people are very concerned about their neighbors' lawns
Well,
and or shrubbery.
particularly with abandoned lots, it's more of an issue, and that's understandable. It's not so much an unsightly thing, though it can be, but people also have concerns that it can draw small rodents, that sort of thing, and that's obviously something we need to combat. So it is important to make sure that we do keep a lid on that as much as possible, because it can spiral out to bigger issues.
But you feel like you're doing your part to combat small rodents.
I try.
That's an excellent goal and an excellent city service. How long have you been doing this?
Entering into my third year this year. So I started in July.
Okay, do you get any calls that you would describe as weird or unusual, or, there's one for the books?
Yes, absolutely. I can't go into great detail because,
Okay.
again, we try to keep everything anonymous. If somebody's like, oh, hey, that's my call. But we've had our share of unusual ones. Some of them have been political in nature, depending on if there's something controversial going through the city, or if there's a particular stance. Some of them are in response to.
You mean just a complaint, like a councilman saying this and I don't like it?
Well, sure, and you have an absolute right to do that. I mean, we'll absolutely make sure those go where they need to go.
Okay.
I mean,
Because you could at least redirect them, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll send them to community affairs or, the office of a particular council member. I mean, the public has a right to be heard. We're all public servants. So, yeah, it's an important thing. But, yes, we've had calls that border on the unusual logic builds. Let's put it that way.
Is there any way you can share it without blowing the anonymity of the people you're protecting?
Well, I did have one that had an unusual approach to the hurricane incidents that happened the last major season that involved deploying large nets and military helicopters.
This was a suggestion?
Yes.
Okay.
That the mayor should suggest, I assume to the president, a unique method of moving hurricanes through towed applications.
Oh, you're moving the actual hurricanes with large nets and military equipment.
That was one of the more unusual.
Oh, by golly, that might just be worth a try.
Something to think about.
You're from this area originally?
Yes, yeah, I was born and raised in Pittsburgh. I was born in Mount Washington and then moved to the Allentown section near, Mount Oliver, and I currently reside in Overbrook.
Did you go to school in the area?
Yes, I went to several of the magnet program schools, and then I had a couple years both at CCAC and Duquesne.
And what led you into this job?
I was in a different field, in ancillary healthcare, basically, and just the increasing amount of regulations made me feel that it was difficult to have kind of a meaningful impact on helping people. As you know, there's been a lot about healthcare in the last couple of years, and so I wanted to get a change of careers where I could feel like I was having a positive and meaningful impact, even if in a minor way. And I do have a secondary background in English communications, so when I saw this job was available, it felt like a good fit for my skill set. Obviously, I didn't have the clerical background yet that, for something a little higher up, but this is directly with the public, which is good, and it is an essential service, so, it felt like a good fit, and obviously, the supervisors and my boss agreed.
Awesome. Seems like you're obviously having a direct impact on people in a positive sense.
We try.
Is there a lot of burnout in the job, or do you foresee that in the future?
Well, there's always the potential. We have had some turnover. I don't think we've had a major amount. We've had some new people. We've had some people not work out, but that's any job really. If you think
absolutely.
about it,
Yeah.
That's no matter what you do. It's important to remember that they're calling the city, not you. So even if their responses or initial impact is vitriolic, especially if it's something where they're having a legitimate problem, pothole damage, they blew a tire and now they've got a major bill that they're looking at, a rodent infestation in their home because somebody nearby, or even just something as they're having a bad day and they finally remember to call about a handicap parking application, but it's still giving a bent to their initial conversation. These people still need help. It's important to, de-escalate, communicate, and try to do what you can to help them. If nothing else, it can change their attitude.
And you probably you should be able to keep your cool, because if they're initially vitriolic, as you say, you have to remind yourself it's not you.
Oh yeah, it's a very important skill to have. Sometimes it's more trying than others. They can come in volume, and that's okay. We're all people too. But, we do try to keep a professional, it's important to get to the core of the message. And on ones that you can't help that are just in a mood to complain and want to be negative, they still have a right to voice their concern. Take the information, send it, just get ready for the next one.
You seem very responsible and sort of into your job in a good way.
Well, thank you.
Do you find other people in the city are also of a like-minded sort of fashion?
Absolutely. I've known several people throughout the city in various departments. I've worked with Public Works. I've talked to people in innovation and productivity, which is kind of our mother category. And there's a lot of people that are here because they care about doing what's right in the city. Obviously, it's not a universal truth, but I think it's probably more true than a lot of people suspect on the average. I mean, yeah, we care a lot about doing our job and doing it right. We recognize it's important, and it's important to keep the city running. I mean, if we don't know where the problems are, we can't fix them.
Wayne Wyant, dedicated public service operator / secret agent. Thank you so much for doing the show.
Absolutely.
Very nice to meet you.
And you as well.
Back with more of City Talk in a moment. Stay with us.
Hey, Dad. Hey, Dad. Do we have a gun?
Why do you ask that, kiddo?
Back on City Talk, well, you just met Wayne, who's one of the people on the front lines with the 311 service. Meet the head of the whole kit and caboodle, Wendy Urbanic, who is, what did I call you, the director of 311?
Manager.
Manager sounds good. How did you get involved in 311 in the first place?
Well, I was already working with the city in personnel and looking for something where I could use more of my management skills. And when this position came up, it just seemed like a perfect fit. Gave me a chance to interact with residents on a one-on-one level, and I've really enjoyed it.
It didn't frighten you at all, like, oh my God, I'm going to have to hear people complain all day, even if they're legitimate complaints and even if you're able to help them, just like...
It was a little bit
steady diet,
intimidating.
you know?
Yeah, I soon found out that once people realized that I was sincere about wanting to help them, that they were really nice, and I've met some great people through my customer interactions.
So you've done a lot of frontline work yourself.
Absolutely.
How do you maintain your composure if somebody's screaming at you because they don't know it's you, they're just thinking you're the city, and for whatever reason, sometimes anyway, they're mad at the city?
Well, a big part of my job is just trying to de-escalate people, make sure that they know they're being heard and that their issues are important, and letting them realize that we do want to help.
If somebody just sort of irrational is like, you know, this pothole was filled 6 months ago, it's already pothole again. What's wrong with you people?
Well, I like, one of the best parts of our job is educating the public. So for example, with a pothole, they might want to blame the crews, but the truth of the matter is, right now the crews are limited to cold patch. It doesn't stay in the holes like the hot asphalt does, so it's the material. So again, once you explain that to them and educate the public, then they're a lot more reasonable.
Why don't they use that stuff that lasts the whole year instead of just for a little while?
I would love it if the hot asphalt plant was open all year round, but by the time we would get the hot asphalt to the city, it would be so hard they wouldn't be able to use it.
Just like your man Wayne, you seem like imbued with calm, with the ability to say things calmly and calm people down. How did you acquire that skill?
I just really love what I do. Very few people have the opportunity to work a job that they're passionate about, and I feel very lucky to have that opportunity.
So you're training people. How does that work?
Well, our training program is fairly extensive, and we use the resources at hand. We might have people pull messages and then do the data entry so they get familiar with the database. We have them listen to a lot of calls.
Before they ever have to talk?
Absolutely. We take weeks before we let them answer a call. We want to make sure that they feel prepared and confident. We want to make sure that they understand the difference between 311 and 911. That's one of the most important things. And it's actually an ongoing experience. You never stop learning.
Wayne was telling me there was a caller, because I was asking him any unusual calls every now and then, who recommended the use of the military and giant nets in order to shift the track of a hurricane. And I don't know what Wayne's advice was for them.
Yeah.
Anything that you recall that was a little bit off the beaten path?
We had folks whose view was hindered by trees, and they saw a special on TV where helicopters came and lobbed off the top of the trees.
Huh.
And they were kind of disappointed we did not have those resources at our disposal.
You got them bike lanes, which ain't got no helicopter with the trees.
We do hear that.
Do you hear about the bike lanes every now and then?
Oh yeah,
What do
they're
people
very
say?
controversial. But people love them or people hate them. Doesn't seem like there's
And
much.
if they love them, I understand it because they're bicyclists and they want to ride through the city. Why don't the people who call you like them some?
Some of them because it's disrupted parking in the cultural district. Some of them because they just don't want to be accommodating to other forms of traffic.
Now that's tough, right? Because they're here to stay. So what do you tell those people?
Absolutely. That, we need to make our city big enough and functional enough for everyone to be able to enjoy it.
Where are you from originally?
Ohio.
Oh, is that a bad thing to say in Pittsburgh because we're so parochial?
Yeah, well, yeah, there's a lot of competition between the Steelers and the Browns when I was growing up, so.
Well, there hasn't been for many years, but there may be again, I'm told, these days. Whereabouts in Ohio?
The Warren area.
Okay, and how did you end up in Pittsburgh?
I came here to go to school, and I had never been to Pittsburgh before. I absolutely fell in love.
And where did you go to school?
Duquesne University.
What was it you fell in love with?
The public transportation, the views, the people were so friendly. I think that was the biggest thing. I am directionally challenged, and I would wander around lost, and no matter who I stopped, they were so helpful and so friendly. You know, I'm going that way, follow me, I'll be happy to show you your way.
And how did you find Duquesne University?
I researched colleges like crazy. Any material they sent to me, I was cataloging, and at that time I was interested in pursuing a career in law, and Duquesne had a special opportunity for that. So.
Okay, but you decided to be more of a government worker and less of a lawyer.
I did.
And how did that evolve, that decision making?
Well, having a family kind of interrupted my plans for being a lawyer, but I'm not disappointed.
At the risk of giving you a compliment that you deserve, you seem like a really dedicated public servant and who's not only good at her job but enjoys her job.
I very much enjoy my job.
How do you find that in terms of the overall workforce in the city? In other words, level of dedication, people enjoying what they do as opposed to some grumpy bureaucrat that people might imagine.
I have so many heroes that work for the city, and that's one of the best parts of my job is getting to interact with people and see them at their peak performance and recognizing their talents. I feel like a lot of city workers don't get the credit they deserve, and anytime, it's rare, but anytime we get a thank you, we go out of our way to pass it along because it really means a lot to the folks who are working here.
You mean sometimes people call 311 to extend a positive wish or to say thank you?
Those are our favorite calls, Sean.
And that actually happens?
It
from time to
does.
time.
It's rare, but it does happen.
Okay, any examples that pop into your head?
They might call and just say they appreciate the service at 311. Every time they call, they talk to someone friendly. Sometimes it's, you know, that pothole was ripping apart my car. Thank you for getting it taken care of. I've sent thank yous. I was in a serious jury trial for a criminal this year, and to see the police detective in action, I got to see the videotape from the interrogation and how professional they were, and I passed that along, and she was really touched because their jobs are so difficult and they never get to hear thank you and, you know, I appreciate what you did and you really acted like a professional.
It's too bad you can't go be a professional juror. If you liked it that much. I mean. All right, so you plan to continue on this for a while.
Absolutely.
And you would recommend government service in general, but 311 specifically? Well, like, what are the characters and qualities you ought to have if you want to try to work for Wendy Urbanic at 311?
Well, first and foremost, you have to be a customer service mindset. That's the most important thing. We want our customers to feel good about calling 311. We never want them to have a bad experience. Secondly, you have to be patient. You know, sometimes it takes a while to understand someone. They're upset or they just had a bad experience and you have to walk them through. So you have to have a lot of compassion.
You might get the gist of the complaint in a couple of minutes, but they might want to talk for 15.
Oh, absolutely. That happens a lot too. And that's another part of our job.
Wendy Urbanic, thanks so much for being with us on City Talk.
My pleasure, John. Thank you.
Very good to see you. That is City Talk for this edition. We'll see you next time on City Channel Pittsburgh.